I pulled into my parents' driveway after a particularly rough day at work. My name's Robin, and I work as a marketing manager at a tech company downtown. The job pays well, but lately, I've been feeling burnt out. All I wanted was to grab the casserole dish my mom had borrowed last week and head home to my quiet apartment. As I walked through the front door of my childhood home, I was greeted by the familiar smell of my mom's lasagna. Great, now I'd have to stay for dinner. Robin, we were just about to eat. Perfect timing, Mom called from the kitchen. I sighed and hung my coat on the rack. The house looked the same as always. Family photos lining the hallway, that old couch Dad refused to replace, and Kelly's college graduation picture, prominently displayed on the mantel. Kelly is my younger sister by 4 years. She works as a receptionist at a dental office and still lives at home with our parents at 26. Hey sis. Kelly bounced into the hallway. Mom made major favorite. I forced a smile, just stopped by to pick up my dish. You have to stay for dinner, Dad said, emerging from his den. Your mother's been cooking all afternoon, and just like that, I was trapped. Dinner started off pleasant enough. Mom talked about her book club, Dad complained about the neighbors, and Kelly scrolled through her phone, occasionally showing us pictures of dogs she thought were cute, normal family stuff. So I said, hoping to make a quick exit after dinner. Work's been crazy lately. I'm completely wiped out. That's why I finally decided to take some time off. I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks. 3 pairs of eyes immediately locked onto me. Vacation.
Would you like to go?
Where to? Kelly perked up, putting down her phone for the first time since we sat down a ski resort in the mountains. Just me, some peace and quiet. Good books, and hopefully some decent snow. Mom's face lit up like a Christmas tree. The mountains. Oh, your father and I were just saying we needed a getaway, weren't we, Richard? Dad nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely, been too long since we had a proper vacation. A knot formed in my stomach. I knew exactly where this was heading. I've never been skiing, Kelly chimed in. That sounds amazing. It's not really a family trip, I said carefully. I just need some time alone to recharge. Mom waved her hand dismissively. We won't bother you, honey. We'll do our own thing during the day and just meet up for dinner. Yeah, Kelly added. We won't cramp your style, besides you're going to pay for everyone, right? It's not like the rest of us can afford a fancy ski resort. I nearly choked on my water, excuse me. Well, you know, your father and I are on a fixed income now, Mom said, as if it were already decided. And Kelly doesn't make what you make, we're family, Dad added. We help each other out. I sat there, fork frozen midway to my mouth, as they continued making plans for my vacation. This wasn't the first time this had happened, though. For years ago, I'd invited my parents on a beach vacation as a gift. Wanting to do something nice for them, Kelly had begged to come along, claiming she needed a break from her stressful life. And I ended up paying for her too, since then. Every vacation I planned became a family affair by default. Caribbean cruise, they tagged along, tour of Italy. They were there with me, footing the bill. Weekend in New York. Somehow they ended up in my hotel suite. I don't think you understand, I said, putting down my fork. I want to be alone this time. Don't be selfish, Robin, Kelly pouted. You know, I've been dying to learn how to ski selfish. I paid for all of your vacations for the past 4 years. Mom looked hurt. We're a family, we're supposed to do things together. I thought about the extreme vacation package my coworkers had mentioned last week. The one deep in the mountains, no amenities, completely off-grid, a survival experience rather than a luxury getaway. I'd laughed when they described it, but now, you know what, fine, I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, if you all want to come to the mountains with me so badly. Who am I to say no? They didn't notice the edge in my voice, too busy high-fiving each other across the dining table as they chatted excitedly about the trip. A plan began forming in my mind. If they wanted a mountain getaway, I'd give them exactly that, just not the one they were expecting. This is going to be the best vacation ever. Time? Kelly squealed. I nodded, thinking of the website I'd seen advertising the extreme survival retreat. Oh, I guarantee it'll be unforgettable. And as I drove home that night, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of my family's faces when they realized what they'd signed up for. Was it petty? Absolutely did they deserve it. After years of taking advantage of me, I thought so. The next morning, I called the travel agency and changed my reservation from the luxury ski resort to the mountain survival experience package. The agent seemed concerned when I mentioned I was bringing my parents and sister. "This isn't your typical vacation," she warned. "There's no electricity, no running water, and you'll be pretty far from civilization. Are you sure your family is up for this? They're very adventurous." I lied, "And don't worry, I won't tell them it was your idea." She laughed and processed the change. "Well, it is beautiful out there. Mountain views, a river nearby, and complete solitude. No dangerous wildlife in the area, so it's perfectly safe. Just challenging sounds. Perfect," I said, imagining Kelly trying to take selfies with no cell. "Service, don't tell them about the change when you send the confirmation emails. I want it to be a surprise for the next 2 weeks." I didn't tell my family about the change in plans. They kept texting me about ski lessons and which designer snow gear they should buy. I just replied with vague sounds, good messages, and let them believe we were still going to a luxury resort. Meanwhile, I was preparing properly. I bought insect repellent, a well-stocked first aid kit, waterproof matches, extra blankets, and a few paperbacks. I'd been wanting to read growing up. I'd been a Girl Scout and gone on plenty of camping trips with my school. This kind of vacation was actually right up my alley, just not what my family was expecting. The day before our departure, Kelly called me. "I'm so excited. I just got a manicure, cost me a fortune, but it'll look great in all my ski photos." I stifled a laugh. "That's great, Kelly. Mom wants to know if the hotel has a spa. She's planning to get a massage every day. Tell her not to worry about a thing," I said, packing my heavy-duty flashlight. "Everything's been taken care of. Also, Dad was wondering if they accept American Express at the restaurants there." "There won't be any payment issues," I said truthfully. "There wouldn't be any restaurants either. Oh, and I might need to borrow some money while we're there just for souvenirs and stuff." I rolled my eyes. "We'll talk about it when we get there the next day." We met at the airport. My parents had 3 suitcases between them, and Kelly had 2 massive ones, plus a carry-on. The flight was uneventful. When we landed, a man holding a sign with my name was waiting for us. He introduced himself as Mike from the travel company and led us to a rugged SUV. "Where's the shuttle bus to the resort?" Dad asked, looking confused. "This is your private transportation, sir," Mike replied with a wink at me. Robin requested something special as we drove away from civilization. My family initially enjoyed the scenery, pointing out the mountains and forests, but after 2 hours, their enthusiasm waned. "How much longer?" Kelly wed. "My phone lost signal an hour ago." "We must be going to a really exclusive resort," Mom said, though she sounded uncertain. "The best," I replied, hiding my smile as I looked out of the window. The sun was setting when we finally stopped in front of a rustic wooden structure that looked more like an abandoned hunting cabin than any kind of resort. "We're here," Mike announced cheerfully. Everyone except me stayed in the car, confused. "There must be some mistake," Dad said, peering through the window. "This can't be the resort." Mike unloaded our bags while his colleague handed me an emergency radio and 4 flashlights. "You'll need these," he said. "Remember, we'll be back in exactly 7 days. The radio is for emergencies." Only, wait, what? Kelly had finally stepped out of the car. "Where's the hotel? Where are the ski lifts?" Mom and Dad joined her, looking around in growing horror. "Robin," Mom said slowly, "what's going on?" Before I could answer, the drivers were already getting back in the SUV. "Enjoy your mountain survival experience," Mike called out. "Remember the contract you all signed at the airport? Well, see you in a week." And just like that, they drove away, leaving us in the growing darkness, with only our luggage and the sound of wind in the trees. "What the hell, Robin?" Kelly screamed, her voice echoing against the mountains. "What is this place? Where's the resort?" "This is our vacation," I said calmly. "You all insisted on coming with me to the mountains even though I told you I wanted to be alone. Well, here we are in the mountains." Dad's face turned an alarming shade of red. "You deliberately tricked us. This is kidnapping, hardly." "You signed the waivers yourselves. We thought we were signing check-in forms," Mom cried. I shrugged and picked up my bags. "Let's get inside before it gets completely dark." The cabin was exactly as advertised, rustic, bare bones, and definitely not a luxury ski resort. 2 small bedrooms with wooden beds, a main room with a wood-burning stove, and a small kitchen area with basic supplies outside, was an outhouse and a camping shower that would need to be filled with river water and left in the sun. To warm up, Kelly burst into tears when she saw the inside. "I can't stay here. There's no bathroom, no Wi-Fi, no anything. I'm leaving," she declared, grabbing the radio from my hands. She started pressing buttons. Frantically, "Hello, I need to be picked up immediately. This is an emergency." After a moment, a crackling voice responded. "This is base camp. What's your emergency?" "I'm at some horrible cabin in the middle of nowhere. I need to leave now, ma'am. According to our records, you're on the mountain survival experience that you signed up for. As per the contract, pickup is scheduled in 7 days. I didn't sign up for this. My sister tricked us. I'm sorry, but all participants signed consent forms. Can only arrange early pickup for medical emergencies or by paying the early extraction fee of $15 for helicopter service over and out." The radio went silent and Kelly threw it at me. I caught it one-handed. "You've lost your mind," she shrieked. "I'm going to sue you. I'm going to—" "You're going to what?" I interrupted. "Walk back to civilization. Good luck with that. It's getting dark, and we're at least 20 minutes from the nearest town." Mom sank onto one of the wooden chairs, sobbing. "How could you do this to us?" I took a deep breath. "For 4 years, I've spent every vacation with you, all paying for everything, never getting a moment of peace. Every time I tried to plan something for myself, you guilt me into bringing you along this time. I'm having the vacation I want. If you wanted a luxury ski resort, you should have paid for it yourselves." Dad looked like he wanted to argue, but instead started unpacking his bags and defeated silence. "There is food in the cupboards, mostly canned stuff and dry goods. The stove works but needs wood. There's a stream about 50 yards down the path for water," I explained oddly. Enjoying myself. "I'm taking the bedroom on the left, Kelly. I guess we're roommates for the week." Kelly gave me a look of pure hatred. "I will never forgive you for this." Our first night in the cabin was tense. Nobody spoke during our dinner of canned beans and instant rice. Dad figured out how to light the wood stove, which took the edge off the mountain chill, but the silence was deafening when bedtime came. Kelly and I retreated to our shared room. The beds were basically wooden platforms with thin mattresses. I took out one of my extra blankets and tossed it to Kelly without a word. "I can't believe you did this," she whispered in the darkness. "You know, I just got this manicure for $85. I rolled my eyes, even though she couldn't see me. "Good night, Kelly." That night I heard her crying into her pillow. Part of me felt guilty. Was I being too harsh? But then I remembered how for years she'd manipulated me into paying for her vacations, always acting entitled to my money. The guilt faded, replaced by a sense of satisfaction. Morning came with a chorus of birds and the sound of Kelly screaming, "There's no hot water. How am I supposed to wash my face with ice-cold water? This is inhumane." I was already up, had washed with the cold water from the basin, and was making coffee on the wood stove. "Morning sunshine," I said cheerfully. "Sleep well," she glared at me. "This isn't funny, Robin. I'm going to ruin my nails. Hauling water and doing whatever survival crap you've got planned." "I don't have anything planned for you," I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee. "You wanted to come on vacation with me. This is my vacation. Feel free to do whatever you want." That set the pattern for the first couple of days. I'd wake up early, explore the surroundings, take photos of the stunning landscapes, and relax with a book in the hammock I'd found in a storage chest. Meanwhile, my family moped around the cabin, barely speaking to me or each other. Kelly's tantrums were the soundtrack to our days. "My nails are ruined. My hair is a disaster. There are bugs everywhere. I hate this place." On the third day, I returned from a hike to find Dad at the stream with a makeshift fishing pole. "Any luck?" I asked, genuinely curious. He nodded, holding up 2 decent-sized trout used to fish with my dad when I was a kid. Never thought those skills would come in handy again. That night, Mom made fish soup, and for the first time, we had a meal that wasn't from a can. No one thanked me for bringing them here, but the atmosphere was slightly less hostile by the 4th day. Something shifted. I woke up to find Dad already outside chopping wood for the stove. Mom had figured out how to use the camping percolator, and had coffee waiting. Later that morning, Mom and Dad built a fire pit outside the cabin and sat talking quietly together, something I hadn't seen them do in years. They were usually glued to their TV or complaining about something. Kelly, on the other hand, had reached new levels of misery. Half her nails were broken. Her designer clothes were filthy, and she'd run out of dry shampoo. She spent most of her time lying on her bed, occasionally sobbing. Dramatically, "Robin," she called out as I was heading for another hike. "Please call that helicopter. I'll pay you back the $15,000, I swear." "No, you won't," I said. "You still owe me $300 from last Christmas, Mom, Dad," she wailed. "Tell Robin to get us out of here." Dad looked up from the fire he was tending. "It would cost $15,000, Kelly. We can't afford that, but this place is horrible. I'm suffering," Mom sighed. "It's only 3 more days, we'll manage." I was shocked. Were my parents actually adapting to this place as I hiked along the river that afternoon? I thought about how they'd stopped asking me when we could leave. They weren't happy with me, that was obvious from their disapproving glances, but they seemed to be making the best of the situation. That evening, I returned to find Mom and Dad cooking dinner. Together over the campfire, we ate in silence, but it wasn't as tense as before. Kelly refused to join us, staying in the cabin and munching on dry crackers through the window. I could see her glaring at us on the 5th day. I woke up before dawn and went down to the river to watch the sunrise. The mountains turned pink and gold as the first rays hit them, and the mist rising off the water made everything look magical. For a moment, I forgot about the family drama and just enjoyed the peace. "It is beautiful here." I turned to see Dad standing a few feet away, his hands in his pockets. "Yeah," I agreed. "Worth the lack of amenities." I think he didn't respond to that. Just stood beside me, watching the sun rise higher. "Your mother and I used to camp when we were younger, before you girls were born." Nothing this remote, but we enjoyed it. "I didn't know that about them. Why did you stop?" He shrugged. "Life happened, work, kids' bills. It was easier to stay home, watch TV back at the cabin. Mom had made a surprisingly decent breakfast of oatmeal with some dried berries she'd found in the supplies." Kelly emerged from our room looking pale and defeated. "I'm hungry," she announced as if it were an accusation. Mom handed her a bowl without comment. The 6th day was our last full day at the cabin. I spent it taking final photographs of my favorite spots. The bend in the river where I'd seen an eagle, the clearing with wildflowers, the view of the valley from the top of a small hill. This vacation hadn't gone how anyone expected. But I genuinely enjoyed myself that night as we sat around the campfire. Mom cleared her throat. "Robin, your father and I want to talk to you about..." She was interrupted by the sound of the radio crackling to life. "Base camp to mountain survival cabin. Come in, this is a reminder that pickup is scheduled for 10 o'clock a.m. tomorrow. Please be ready with all your belongings over." I grabbed the radio, received base camp. "We'll be ready over," Kelly, who had finally joined us at the campfire, let out a whoop of joy. "Thank God, civilization here." "I come," Mom and Dad exchanged a look I couldn't quite interpret. The car arrived exactly at 10 o'clock a.m. And the next morning, Mike looked surprised when he saw us, probably expecting more drama or disaster. Kelly practically sprinted to the car, clutching her designer luggage that now had dirt stains and a broken zipper. "It was torture," she hissed. "Absolute torture." My parents followed silently, exchanging glances. I couldn't interpret. The drive back to civilization was awkward. Kelly sat as far away from me as possible, staring out the window and ignoring my existence. My parents were quiet, too, occasionally giving me disapproving looks. I spent the drive scrolling through the photos on my phone, smiling at the beautiful landscapes I'd captured despite the family drama. I genuinely enjoyed myself at the airport. Kelly immediately announced she was taking a separate taxi home. "I'm never speaking to you again," she said, jabbing a finger with a broken nail in my direction. "You're the worst sister ever." Mom looked torn, glancing between us. "Kelly, maybe we should..." "No," Kelly interrupted. "I'm done. You can ride with the wilderness terrorist if you want." Dad sighed deeply. "We'll go with Kelly, Robin. We'll talk later." They left without a proper goodbye. the three of them piling into a taxi while I stood alone with my luggage. I felt a twinge of regret, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of liberation. For the first time in years, I wouldn't have to feel requests for money or deal with their expectations at home. I unpacked, did laundry, and ordered takeout the next day. I uploaded my vacation photos to Instagram with the caption, "Best family vacation ever, can't wait to do it again." I made sure to include a few candid shots, Kelly with her red tear-stained face, my parents looking bewildered by the campfire, and me grinning widely in every picture. Petty may be satisfying, absolutely. Weeks passed and I didn't hear from any of them. It was the longest we'd gone without speaking. Usually Kelly would text at least twice a week, asking for money for emergencies that mysteriously always cost $2 to $3. The silence was refreshing at work. Things were looking up. My boss called me into his office one afternoon with unexpected news. "Robin, we're expanding the West Coast division and need someone to head up marketing there. You're our top choice. If you're willing to relocate, a fresh start in a new state, thousands of miles from my clingy family." It seemed too perfect. "When do I start?" I asked, not hesitating for a second. 2 weeks later, I was packing up my apartment when I decided it was time to let my parents know. I sent a simple text to my mom, "Got a promotion, moving to California next week." 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Robin." Mom's voice sounded small. "We need to talk before you go. Can you come over tomorrow?" I hesitated but agreed. The next evening, I drove to their house, half expecting Kelly to be there, with a prepared speech about what a terrible person I was. To my surprise, only my parents were home, sitting nervously at the kitchen table. "Where's Kelly?" I asked, taking a seat across from them. "We invited her, but she refused to come," Mom explained. "She's still very angry with you." Dad cleared his throat. "Robin, we wanted to apologize." That was the last thing I expected to hear. "Your mother and I have been talking a lot since the trip. We realized we've been taking advantage of your generosity for years, expecting you to fund our vacations, never considering what you wanted." Mom nodded, looking ashamed. That week in the mountains was difficult, but it made us see how entitled we'd become. "We didn't even thank you for those wonderful trips you paid for. We just expected them, and now you're moving away," Dad continued. "Don't want to lose you because of our behavior." I sat in stunned silence. After all this time, they finally got it. "What about Kelly?" I asked Mom. Sighed. "Kelly is Kelly. She's always been more self-centered than you. She'll come around eventually, but right now she's still convinced she was the victim." "Will you let us know your new address?" Dad asked. "We promise not to show up unannounced or ask you for anything." I nodded, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. I'd like that. The move went smoothly. My new apartment had a view of the Pacific Ocean, and my new position came with a substantial raise a week after settling in. I video called my parents to show them my place. They oohed and nodded appropriately, and Mom pointed out a spot that would be perfect for a houseplant. It felt normal, nice. "Even any plans for your next vacation?" Dad asked cautiously. I grinned. "Actually, I was thinking of a beach trip to Hawaii." In a few months, I noticed the flicker of fear in their eyes, before Mom quickly said, "That sounds lovely, dear." As for Kelly, I still haven't heard from her 3 months later. Mom says she's dating someone new and seems happy. She also mentioned that Kelly tried to ask them for money last week, but they suggested she get a second job instead. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far with the mountain cabin surprise. Then I remember Kelly's entitled attitude, how my parents enabled her behavior for years, and how they all assumed they had a right to my money and my time. The trip may have been extreme, but it got the message across last night. I booked that trip to Hawaii, just for me. 7 days of sunshine, ocean, and solitude. When I told my parents about it during our weekly call, they simply wished me a good time and asked me to send pictures. No guilt trips, no hints about joining me, no expectations. And as I finalized the booking, I smiled to myself, thinking about those peaceful days by the mountain river. Sometimes you have to create a little chaos to find true peace, and sometimes the most important family lesson